And ladies and gentlemen, while many have called Budget 2020 radical, reformative, a revival-oriented budget, the markets have really not been too upbeat, and the opposition is calling it a shallow blueprint. Tonight, I will have a clip of an interview that I did with Nirmala Sitharaman. We'll talk about the hits, misses of this first budget of the new decade. And then we'll watch the most newsy excerpts of the interview with the finance minister, and then we'll follow up with a debate. So here first is the big story, the big highlights of the budget.
The budget speech was out of the traditional Bahi Khata. And for the next 163 minutes, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had a little for something for everyone. There was relief for the middle class.
Under the new regime, sir, an individual shall be required to pay tax at a reduced rate of 10% for income between 5 lakhs to 7.5 lakhs against the prevailing 20%.
The corporates had a reason to cheer.
In order to increase the attractiveness of the Indian equity market and to provide relief to a large class of investors, I propose to remove the DDT and adopt the classical system of dividend distribution tax.
A big boost for foreign investors.
I propose to grant 100% tax exemption to their interest, dividend and capital gains income in respect of investment made in infrastructure and other notified sectors before 31st March 2024 with a minimum lock-in period of 3 years.
It was a reset budget to pace the economic growth. But the opposition was not very happy. The reasons not convincing.
I didn't see any concrete idea, any strategic idea that would help our youngsters get jobs.
Does the opposition have a concrete reason to oppose a budget for revival? Let's debate.
It's fantastic. Well done. You broke it up. There was a lot of applause. But then you went on to say that you're also taking the incentives away, the deductions away. Not just that, you also said, Ms. Sitharaman, you said that we've done some 70% and the rest of them which are there, we will also take it over a period of time. So, but you've made it optional. You can go in for the old system or the new system, etc. But then why didn't you just let whatever little deductions middle class gets be, and also lower the tax slabs? That would have put more money in the hands of people, which is so important to drive consumption.
There were two. This is an opportunity for me which I wanted to take up to do two things. One, of course, get more money in the hands of the people. That's one agenda where government has to invest in infrastructure, create assets, also ensure more money goes into the hands of the people. That's one side of the story. But we also wanted to make sure that India has simple and easy to comply tax regime.
Could that not have waited for later?
Well, that's the point. I could have always put it saying it will happen 3 years from now.
Yeah.
And left it at that.
Why didn't you do that?
But the point is, we want to start even on the taxation reforms, even as we are in this kind of an environment. So what I'm doing here, like the way I did for corporate tax reduction, which I did in September, is I'm not asking people to give away those exemptions that they are enjoying for companies. Until they exhaust that, they can remain there and move on to the system when they choose to. I know here the exemptions are not exhaustible because they continue as long as you want to use those exemptions. But here the idea was, one, give more money in the hands of the people who want it, and if you notice, the deep cuts are for those who are on the lower end of income. 5 to 7, 7 to 12, 12 to 15 and so on. So that's the section which has had deeper cuts.
Are people going to feel the benefit of the reduced tax slabs if they lose the reductions?
I'm saying, Arnab, look at this. Over the decades, 120 exemptions have all come into the Income Tax Act. The document, that income tax book that you take, is like this, like a ton. 120 over the decade. I'm sure each time any one exemption was added, it was added with some reason and justification. But 120? So we looked at it, spent a lot of time looking at each one and its relevance in today's India and so on. Now therefore, I had to remove some of them. I've removed. Rest continue. And for those who choose to remain in the old system, they can still enjoy all those exemptions.
For how long?
I'm leaving it there. I'm not speculating on how long that's going to continue. So that's one. But a new system will come which is bereft of all exemptions after 5 years. Is no fun. I'll start the reform now. I will allow you to be where you are if you choose to be. But if you're coming here, I'm saying I will do it without exemptions. With that said, I'm allowing some exemptions even in the new one.
Are you allowing the significant ones?
I will give you a list of those exemptions I'm allowing, which is not discretionary.
When I read that list, what will I make of it?
I'll explain it to you. It's not discretionary. It is on a principle that that which is earned, that which is part of their income, if it is getting taxed more than what the basic income is going to get taxed, it's unfair. So like for instance, leave encashment. I can't obviously treat that into a taxation fold.
Yeah.
So
You've kept that.
I've kept that in the new system. Like that, I will give you a list of all those which on a principle are being brought into the new regime. That's not discretionary at all, but only a limited number. I want to make sure that gradually we move towards a system where no exemptions prevail, but the tax incidence is going to be so low that people wouldn't mind foregoing all those exemptions and complications, everyone trying to see, which they can't do it themselves. They'll obviously need professional advice to see which is the best combination and permutation, which is going to give them a lot of money away from taxation.
You've done the calculations, so follow-up simple question. Everyone watching tonight, Finance Minister, as a professional, you've been a professional before joining politics. For a professional salaried person, you say I've kept the reasonable deductions, exemptions still there. Are you convinced yourself that a salaried middle-class person will benefit? His or her taxes will go down?
Absolutely.
After what you've done today?
Absolutely. That is why I had taken two examples in the speech itself of a person who is in the old system, and when he moves to the new system, which is completely without any exemptions, although I'm giving some, I've calculated the actual amount that he will gain if he were to be in the new system. And in the case of a random example of a 15 lakh salary person being in the new system as compared to the old, we very clearly said 78,000 rupees will be his gain.
Markets are either confused or critical, and they want to know, why didn't you bite the bullet on LTCG? And why didn't you do a full abolition of DDT? Why didn't you go all the way? You know, if you wanted to give a solid economic booster shot, then you could have abolished maybe LTCG, security transaction tax, and done a complete removal of DDT. You sort of went one step forward, one step back. Why?
No, not at all. First of all, today the stock market wasn't fully operational, only partly operational. So I want to give them the advantage. Let us see how they respond on Monday.
Why, you have something else in store on Monday?
No. At least they should be fully working.
What is your expectation of them? You feel they haven't read it well?
No, I will give them the advantage till Monday. And second, you may have a list.
Yes.
Personal income tax, not good enough. DDT, not good enough. LTCG, you didn't do and therefore you're bad.
LTCG,
it could be
security transaction tax, double taxation.
No double taxation.
They say it's a form of double taxation.
No, 1 minute. DDT and LTCG, you said it's double taxation. I'll remove DDT.
Yeah.
But what do you mean by complete removal? I'm leaving it to the individual who has some income. And if at his applicable rate, if this income is also getting taxed at the individual's hand rather than at the company's hand, why should it hurt the company? Why should it hurt the company? I've removed the burden on you. Whereas the individual shareholder, the lower end fellows, might benefit from it because they were still paying 15%, where probably now they don't need to pay anything at all.
These are the shareholders. These are the ones.
These are the shareholders.
These are the shareholders.
And therefore
shareholders are not getting it.
No, shareholders, if they are paying less than 15 as per their appropriate level, at their applicable level, why shouldn't it be acceptable?
But wouldn't you presume that those who are in the markets would be of a higher
No, I don't presume anything. I'm taking this as an example.
Why didn't you go all the way?
What is going all the way?
All the way is okay. So let me provoke you completely. All the way is not an illusion. Please pardon my words if in case that you get angry at it, but I'd say not an illusion of an income tax revamp, a complete no nullifying of the benefits, removal of LTCG, removal of security transaction tax, solid booster shot. And therefore people are very happy, more money comes into the hands of people, markets are full of joy.
And I also have to give money to the hands of people who are absolutely in the lower bracket. I have to do some DBT.
Economy will go up.
DBT.
Businesses will rise, there will be more employment.
We will try to address all those.
Trickle-down effect will happen.
Of course it will happen. I'm asking for trickle-down effect even now after reducing corporate tax. Let that be shown. Let that be seen. Let that be felt. It's not just one end of the story. I have seen that. I've done that. Now I want to know. I understand.
Now you want to know. Please complete that. What are you saying? Now you want to know?
I want to know now, at least in the forthcoming year, post the decisions on corporate tax gains that companies have got. They are fully right if they want to choose to give it to their shareholders. They're fully right if they want to clear their debts to the banks. They're fully right in keeping it as a saving to see what they want to do with it later. They're all right in that. It's their money, their decision. I fully appreciate that. But eventually, I like to see new investments come.
You're so smartly pushing the ball back in their court. You're pushing the ball back. I see a finance minister who's saying, I've done so much now for the last 3 months. Now the ball is in the private sector's court. You need to bite the bullet. Is that what you're saying? The
government is very clearly coming out and saying, I will do the investment related expenditure which the government will have to do for infrastructure.
Right.
After all, the economy will have to depend on consumption, investment from private sector's hands, investment from public sector's hands. Let the private sector do when it wants. But we are not stopping ours. We are going ahead doing it. 100 lakh crores in 5 years. And I'm fully ready to front load it. I've shown the project 6,500 compiled in the pipeline. I'm giving concessions to sovereign funds who are showing interest to come and invest in India. So I'm not just talking. I've also created the investors facilitation cell so that a sovereign fund, the moment they reach, are handheld to say you choose from this.
You've raised it from 9% to 15%. You've done all those things.
So we will.
But you are pushing it back. I mean, am I right in saying that?
To an extent.
To an extent, you are. Because even you're telling the finance minister, telling the private industry,
come on,
put your money where your mouth is now.
And even if they pay back to the banks in clearing their loans, it's good for me. Banks' books will be better. So I'm quite happy to see the time that it takes for the corporate tax benefits to come to some reality.
Is this government too disciplinarian in your approach? Is tax collection your basic obsession? That, you know, it's all about collecting taxes and compliance. Do you feel people cheat? I mean, do you distrust industry, corporates or individuals? I'm just asking more from a perspective there.
Not at all. I thought we are opening up the choices for an individual that he can do anything by the money that is saved by paying less tax. And it's for him to do what he wants.
Why don't you pass on more benefits when you have the opportunity?
What is the benefit? I'm giving the money back to him.
Why don't you pass on other benefits, for example?
What are other benefits?
Well, I mean, like, okay, so for example, crude's been falling for 12 weeks flat.
Yes.
And crude's fallen by some 12%, right? Why don't you pass on the benefit to the consumer and fuel prices?
The department has, first of all,
Brent has been fallen 12%.
Oil marketing companies are free to do their pricing. Every 15 days they assess and change the price. Nowadays, even in areas, every morning you get report about what is the price.
True.
So the marketing companies are free to do what they want.
Okay, so Ms. Sitharaman, the question everyone's asking, not just in Mumbai, Delhi, everywhere. Will the recovery happen from here? What's your sense?
I think there are indications already, the data that is coming through.
How do you think people should read it? Corporates, if people who are investing, etc., how should they read it?
The investors are clear. They find that India is the best place to invest. They're coming in now. And that is why some of them who approached us, sovereign funds, we've given some benefits to them. There is no confusion in the mind of investors. We've also put up a list of pipeline projects which they can pick up from.
Yeah.
The Indian investments are also opening up.
Yeah.
So I think we can see tangibly a lot of movement.
And I have with me Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Union Minister. Thank you very much for joining me on this budget night. And viewers, I don't know how many years we've been doing this. Every budget night he's there with me. Mr. Prasad, tell me, are people in the markets, are their expectations too high of you? Do people want too much? Is it difficult to make people happy? I mean, you've done so much and yet the markets have tanked. Why? Why is this happening, in your view?
Arnab, I'm coming on your channel after some time, long time, So let me first wish you one thing: be safe and happy on the ground and also in the air, okay? That is my first good luck to you. The country expects a lot from you. Now, as far as this whole budget part is concerned, it is always a pleasure for me to talk to you on budget also, apart from other things. Arnab, you must understand the core of this budget. And what is the core of this budget? When Mr. Modi came to Delhi after winning the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, he said, my government will work for the poor, underprivileged and the farmers. And when the first formal budget of his second term, which he won with greater majority, the same stress continues. But what have been added, and this will answer the query you have made, wealth creators have been respected for the first time in a formal budget document, and also the economic survey. It is a message. What kind of names are being given to them by the opposition leaders? You have shown them many times. Therefore, they are also to be involved. Wealth creator not only Indian, but also foreigners. And this India's economy being the 5th biggest economy. Don't forget, Arnab, in spite of all these talks of slowdown, India's FDI is 6% higher than the previous year. And the two departments I head, IT and telecommunication, have been the biggest beneficiary of that. Indian entrepreneurship is sought to be promoted, the new economy part. And one very brief suggestion I have to give for your viewers, Arnab Goswami, that I also had an electronic ministry. When we had come to power in 2014, there were only 2 mobile factories. Now there are 268 mobile factories. India has knocked America as the 2nd biggest mobile manufacturing country in the world. This budget today announces what? It announces a whole scheme to make India a big export hub of medical electronics, defense electronics, strategic electronics, consumer electronics and mobile electronics. Therefore, there is a whole proper framework of this budget. Startups have been given a lot of incentives. You are talking to Nirmala ji a lot about sovereign fund, etc. I don't wish to go there. Therefore, there is a proper message. And what I feel, coming to your answer to your query, our friends on the Sensex and other share measurement bodies, once the entire ecosystem of the budget become clear to them, I think they are going to cheer up.
So the other question which comes in everyone's mind, and I asked Nirmala Sitharaman, but I still want you to address that. You have done a more rationalized and simplified income tax regime, but people are now becoming inherently suspicious about your motives. Nirmala Sitharaman told me, Arnab, I have kept many tax deductions still there. I have not touched all. And she gave the example of leave encashment, for example. But there are others who are spreading this, and it's a fast spreading, a lie repeated 1,000 times can even become a truth. So you should be wary about it. A lot of people are saying, no, you're going to end up exactly where you were. Doesn't matter whether you're under 5 lakh or under 10 lakh or under 15 lakh. Effectively, the government has done nothing in terms of a tax concession for the salaried middle class. And since this question affects my largest viewership, I need you to give me a clear answer to that. There are a lot of people are concerned with the WhatsApp messages doing the rounds since the budget.
Or no, let me explain to you as clearly as possible. I am happy you have talked to Nirmala ji about all these issues, but let me reply in my own way. First, what we have done, we trust the honest taxpayers and we want a clean tax administration. Let me give you 2 examples. From the 1st of November, no SSC can be given a notice directly by an income tax officer. The notice has to go by a digital system. Okay? And in meeting in Ahmedabad, I said, अगर आपको कोई सीधा नोटिस भेजता है इनकम टैक्स ऑफिसर तो आप उसको फाड़ देना, लॉ मिनिस्टर ने कहा है. That's the extent we have encouraged them. No prosecution unless confirmed by 3 senior commissioners collegium. This is one part you need to understand. This is again, we are going to give trust in the ordinary taxpayers. Today, we have made 2 major initiatives. One, to remove the clogging of the judicial process of 4 lakh pending cases. You pay the original demanded, no interest, no penalty, clear. A window has been opened in 31st. Now you must understand why this whole calibration has been done for up till 15 lakhs, below 30% tax regime, all in a slabs. This is what your constituency you talked about. The middle class, the lower middle class. You pay, you get this benefit. But as the FM has rightly told you, all the exemptions have not been taken away. And Arnab, if you want to have a neat, clean and stable tax regime, it must be evident to all, this is the tax you have to pay. With my legal experience, Arnab, I can share with you that as far as exemptions are concerned, there are games and games in there, you know it very well. That leads right to a lot of litigation. But yet, an option has been given to the taxpayers. You accept today's announced regime or you wish to continue with the old regime. The choice is yours. I think nothing could be more fairer than this.
Yeah. Do you think you've done enough for a revival? Nirmala Sitharaman said it quite clearly. I think she says we've done our bit. We are front-ending the money. We are making the investments. We're making the promises. We're not just talking. We're showing where we are doing the investments. So we even specified the areas and we've gone into details of our investment. Now you show your intent. It appears to me now the government is pointing a finger back at industry. Saying, don't keep asking what needs to be done for you. Step forward and do your contribution.
I think the FM has very rightly put it, both in the Lok Sabha while presenting the budget, in the course of our interview with you. What is the government's intention? We are giving lakhs and lakhs of crore in infrastructure. We are doing our bit. 2,83,000 crore is the budget for the Kisan, for irrigation. Infrastructure, again, the huge budget is there. This today, 1 lakh crore close to higher education budget for what? Including for 100 good universities online, the best courses. I talked about electronic manufacturing to you. I talked of the new economy from AI to others, to startup, to having core areas, every district poising for a new entrepreneurship. Therefore, we are doing our best, we are investing and we are also giving money. These money will generate more and more avenues, consumer demands. So that we are doing and we shall do. Now we have given respect to you, we are calling you wealth creators. We have given all the incentives, all the cleaning up is done. Now you also start working towards making India what it is. This is the whole, I think, appeal and the motto of this budget.
Yeah. Appears to me the only mismatch is you're looking at a calibrated process of growth. But markets and industry sometimes want double the dose of antibiotics in the short term. And your feeling is too many antibiotics eventually ends up reducing your immunity. But that's always the challenge. I think that's how I would put it. Well, Mr. Prasad, you put it beautifully and lucidly. Next time we speak, we must speak about other challenges politically like Shaheen Bagh, which, by the way, your message today was very well received by a lot of people. We hope we have economic growth and social amity. Thank you very much for talking to me today, Ravi Shankar Prasad, Minister for Law, Justice, Information Technology. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now time for the debate. PK Basu, MR Venkatesh, Gopal Krishna Agarwal. On the other side, Rajiv Desai, Suresh Chopra, Amar Patnaik and Anirban Banerjee on the only objective network in the country where there are more people against the government than for. So let me ask Rajiv Desai to lock horns first on this debate with Professor PK Basu. Professor PK Basu, Rajiv Desai, please look up. May I have your attention, please? My first question to you is, it's a reset budget. End the negativity. Things are going to look up. It's going to be fine when things are better. Rajiv Desai, it's a reset budget. There is so much which has got done. So much more always can be done, right, Professor Basu? Course, yeah. I want you to talk to Rajiv. Rajiv, what makes you gloomy even today? The sun is shining today. Things are fine. Well, people are happy. Taxes have gone down. Dividend distribution tax has been abolished. People have insurance for their bank account deposits.
Wouldn't you be
okay,
gloomy?
Rajiv. Yeah. Why should I be gloomy?
Wouldn't you be gloomy if you found
I'm very happy
that the finance minister and the government have learned absolutely zero lessons? This is a bureaucrat's budget. The government, by and large, the political leadership is so focused on these fairly aggressive political moves, whether it's CAA or Kashmir, that it's just let the bureaucrats handle this entire budget. And this is a bureaucrat's budget. We'll give you 3 rates of personal taxation, but you'll have to choose whether you want to give up your exemptions or not. I mean, this is the kind of
why it's a choice,
complete kowtowing, just shirking responsibility.
You're saying choice, giving people choice is bad.
To deal with a very serious economic crisis. To deal with a serious economic crisis, which is going to go worse because it looks like the whole thing is going to also spread out in the world. That this has been also mentioned in Davos, that the Indian slowdown and chaos is affecting the world economy. So yes, I am disappointed. I would have thought that they would have learned their lessons, and instead we've got only a headline management budget.
Okay,
I can give you individual things. Look at the dividend distribution tax. No, let me finish one last thing.
What's wrong with it? It's been removed. You wanted it to stay.
No, it's been.
You wanted it to stay.
No, it's not been removed. The onus has been put on the investor. You still have to pay it. The investor has to pay it. It's not.
I'm sorry, not the investor, the recipient of the dividends.
Investment companies.
But the companies don't have to pay.
We have to deal with it. So it's all.
The companies don't pay.
Everything.
Companies don't pay, sir. What are you talking about?
That's what I'm saying.
The companies don't pay the DDT.
But individuals.
So why don't? Isn't that good?
Individuals pay.
What do you want?
What are you talking about? You have to pay.
Individuals pay at the tax bracket they belong to.
It's not deducted at source, but you have to. It is added. It is added to your income, and you pay the income tax level. So please, this is all kind of sleight of hand nonsense.
Obviously, if you're getting money, it will be added to your income, not deducted.
Understands economics.
It makes no sense to me. You're arguing for argument's sake. I mean, Professor Basu is responding to you right now. By the way, Professor Basu, the man famous for silencing in the course of a conversation your Supreme Leader Rahul Gandhi.
I'm arguing that they put the futures of young people at risk with high unemployment. and upcoming inflation.
Okay, Professor.
First of all, let's quickly address a few of those points. First of all, whether it's a bureaucrat's budget, I don't think a bureaucrat's budget would include the listing, the IPO of LIC.
Oh, well said.
LIC
he gave it back.
Is a massive company, and listing LIC is going to have a transformative impact on the equity market over the medium term. It will probably be the largest or second largest stock in India in terms of market capitalization. So now, may I speak, please? I let you speak. So it'll be the largest or the second largest stock in India in terms of market cap. It will have a transformative impact. Now, apart from that, there is, of course, a pipeline of privatizations that's already underway: BPCL, Concor, SCI, Air India, and they're going to list a major port. Most likely, IDBI will be fully privatized. So we'll have the first bank privatization, first public sector bank that is going to be privatized. So these are not run-of-the-mill bureaucratic moves. These are transformative moves, and it's a return to the privatization agenda that we saw 15 years ago. So those are significantly positive. Now, in terms of the tax rate reductions, there is a substantial reduction for the lowest income earners, the lowest taxpayers. So up to 5 lakhs, you get a complete exemption. The standard deduction is basically raised to 5 lakhs. That is a substantial change. And you're going to get a substantial reduction in tax rates if you choose to move to the simplified regime. Now, this is an incremental step. It's not going to be too disruptive to do it all at once. So I think these are all positive, significantly positive moves. And I think the privatization in particular is a game changer going forward.
Yeah, this is a great response. I realize that when we go to specifics, when we stop simply cribbing, when we stop simply criticizing, when we stop simply arguing for argument's sake, then we understand things well. Bureaucratic, M.R. Venkatesh, ask Sunit Chopra which bureaucrat in the country can decide to take LIC, which has over 26,000 crore profit and a gargantuan valuation, to the markets. I mean, I want to know which bureaucrat can single-handedly take that decision. You know the problem with people like you, Sunit Chopra and Rajiv Desai, if I may, you do not give credit when you need to. You do not have the generosity to accept that someone else has done something that you could not even dream of.
Jewels.
You could not even sell Centaur Hotel, and they are selling LIC.
That the BJP government is strong enough to sell
Family jewels.
all the national assets.
They are selling a bit. Do you understand what IPO is?
To give them credit for. A bit by bit, they are going to sell off everything. They are selling off entire India. They are thinking about selling off the entire stakes.
They are not selling it off. They are simply listing a small proportion. By listing a small proportion, you are not selling the family jewels. You are unleashing the value of the family jewels. Those family jewels, if you keep them in...
One second. Let me explain basic economics. Let me explain. No. I need to explain. I need to explain basic corporate governance to you. Hello. When there are many companies, a company that is in the market is not a company that does not have an owner. You know, in a listed company, you can even control the company with 26% or less. Here the government's going to have more than a simple majority. Any company in which there is a promoter who has over 51% equity is an absolute owner. Do you understand basic economics? Why do you speak rubbish like you will sell LIC like that?
Absolutely we do. Please
now
don't,
you shift the goalpost,
consider the common
because
man
I contradicted you on it. You want to go to agrarian crisis.
I mean, it's the BJP people. It's the BJP people.
You called me a kabaddi. You called the government a kabaddi. Beautiful. I give a response. The BJP representative has to respond back. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, you have... Okay. Kabaddi sell rubbish. Are you saying LIC is rubbish? Kabaddi sell kuda. Are you saying IDBI is Kuda? What are you talking about? Ye kaisi logic hai? GK Agarwal.
No, what is it?
No, GK Agarwal has to respond to this kabadi.
Government want to sell off national assets.
GK Agarwal of the BJP with Sunit Chopra. Only two of them, please. I want no disturbance to this extremely intellectual conversation. GK Agarwal, aapko kabadi wala bola gaya. You've been described as a kabadi wala. LIC is Kuda. And so is IDBI. Please respond to this extremely intelligent argument of the counter-revolutionary called Sunit Chopra. Yeah.
Sumit Chopra will always talk rubbish because his mind has got all the rubbish inside. It is actually when you list a share like LIC in the
in your mind have
and you go with an IPO
Hindu
route.
Rashtra.
And ultimately, the way you list, you
It's
unleash
a
the
filthy
value
concept.
locked in the company. And at the same time, you build confidence of the people in the equity market. How do you generate confidence and the liquidity into the market? You have to list good companies. And it always will unleash the value.
1,000 points down.
The yesterday's economic survey, how it tells that the value, it gives a chart. Those shares
a Marxist who swears by the Sensex is a novel concept.
Like a national stock exchange, etc., have unleashed a great value to those public sector undertakings. CPSC, those have been listed, have created value for the government, for the people, for the nation. Ultimately, a
fake news
without a listing will never create a true value.
That's why the shares have fallen.
Determine the true value of the companies. And it also unlocks the government.
That's why your shares are falling.
Government can invest into other social security. The government can invest that same money which it
they have invested in nothing
to more profitable
Kisan Yojana has gone down by 25,000 crores.
Benefit of the ultimate last person in the
has
society
not been increased
when the
by
government,
even 1 rupee.
When the government lists 2 lakh crore of disinvestment target, ultimately that resource generation will go for the nation building. You have to understand this crony capitalism of controlling public sector undertakings for your own benefit, for the benefit of certain people in power, has created a havoc in the economy. The way you have completely destroyed Air India, the way you controlled Air India and created debt in the company and squeezed that company. You answer for that. Who is responsible for devaluation of the Air India industry which is doing good? Because of debt and mismanagement and corruption of the
country. I wish to add one thing. Please understand, as far as
Sunit Chopra, your party is down to how many seats? 3 or 4 in Parliament?
2.
So there's a good reason why that is the case.
The
people of India have voted down your party. They have rejected the party that you represent, and so
even
now
the old lady
understanding how value can be created by listing a company. Now, when you list the largest port, this government is going to be listing a major port. It is going to be listing LIC. Now, LIC has 72% market share in insurance, and its market share has actually increased over the last 2 or 3 years. So, listing that is not kabadi. The listing of it, unleashing its value, finding its true market value. When you find its true market value, the shareholder, which is the government, the government is the majority shareholder, it benefits, and therefore, who's the ultimate beneficiary? the entire tax-paying base of this country. So the electorate ultimately benefits because it creates the opportunity
Our
for
government
using
is
that money
working
to invest in
towards
other
wealth
things.
creation.
And that's essentially what's happened.
Create wealth.
So you look at Hindustan Zinc.
How do you create wealth? Equity
Amar
market
Patnaik, MR
is one
Venkateshwar, he's not listening. Now you see, I'll give you a few points now. Amar Patnaik and MR Venkatesh. Amar Patnaik, you know, when something good is done, we must not just come from a point of view that we need to, you can't become like Rajiv Desai who will find a fault with everything. You be more reasonable. Allocations to SC, STs increased. Rural economy, 2.83 lakh crore. Massive simplification of income tax. Hike in defense allocation, 6%. Faceless e-assessment, upgraded to faceless appeal. You know, so you don't have to be scared of the tax man. Tax terrorism becomes a thing of the past. Education budget up by almost 5%. Facilities to startups increase in a big way. Now, these are things that you need to accept are radical changes that make the fundamentals very strong. You know, Amar Patnaik, when fundamentals are strong, we will all benefit in the long term. Our future generations will be inheriting a strong economic base. Is that not important? Is that not important? Should we be quibbling, Amar Patnaik? You tell me.
It's very important. In fact, I fully agree that some of the changes which have been brought about, particularly in the marketing, agricultural marketing sector, let's say the seamless national coal supply chain, Krishi Rail and Krishi Udan, significant. We welcome this. PM Kusum to cover 20 lakh farmers for solar pumps, outstanding. Removal of dividend tax, we talked about it. So all these are cooperatives, in fact, extending the benefit of concessions to cooperatives. This was a requirement that we had met from the Orissa government. This was a demand, and this has been agreed to by the finance minister. Most important, in fact, we haven't talked about it, is the deposit insurance coverage being increased from ₹1 to ₹5 lakhs. So education, foreign investment in education. So some of these things are very important because they set the trajectory for a change that is going to happen in the economy. But we have some concerns, for example, particularly because of the slowing down of the economy, the states are going to get affected in terms of devolution. We have calculated that in Orissa, we are probably going to get about 3,000 crores less. But if the economy picks up, and the buoyancy in the GST picks up, I'm sure this can be probably covered in the 2021. But overall, I would say we're talking about a tax, a lot of things about the tax slabs. The finance minister was very particular. She said that identified exemptions will continue to be there in the new tax slabs. You see, even in the corporate tax, there were two dichotomy: those who want to remain and those who want to come over to the new system, because the direction is to go towards an exemption-free tax system. That's the simplified tax system all over the world. It's not just in India. So I think overall, given the status of economy, we have got a budget which I think people have not really understood, the markets have not really understood. It will take time for them to react. The state's concerns, however, remain that somehow the GST compensation has to work better. The MGN, I would have been happier if the MGNREGS allocation would have been improved, would have been made little more from 72,000. It has actually been brought down to 61,000 crores. But I have a feeling that as the year passes by and the
I like that approach.
Up,
you know, I like your approach, Amar. Amar, I like your approach, Mr. Patnaik. But can you teach a thing or two? You know, I think Amar Patnaik should teach a thing or two to Rajiv Desai and to Anirban Banerjee, who only talk about gloom and doom, who lack a simple thing called objectivity. You know, I don't understand why Rajiv Desai can't change.
Exactly.
He can make an attempt. This constant gloom and doom economics, you know, is the problem.
Demonetization.
They should not politicize the budget.
Arnab,
yes.
Arnab, can I come in now?
of which is still not in sight.
Arnab, now let us listen.
Nothing more
See,
than
the problem with...
Tell Rajiv this,
November 2016.
Tell Rajiv.
See, even listing of companies in the stock exchange actually unlocks its value because it increases efficiency within the organization itself. Listing a particular company in the stock exchange decides unleashing the value, as they say. It increases efficiency within the organization.
I have a question for Mr. Pattanayak.
Now,
does this listing or
LIC share being held by the President of India, how is it different being held by Arnab Goswami or M.R. Venkatesh? Arnab, this is a very fundamental thing. Can Anirban answer this question? Why is it? How is it different? No, how is it different? How is it different? Tell me.
I'll tell you.
How is it different? Yes, tell me.
I'll tell you. There is a reason.
How?
I'll tell you. Listen to it. Listen to it. I'm giving you the answer. One is called the public sector unit, another is called the private sector unit. That is for a reason. Public sector unit means that the wealth or
all this crap we know. Anirban, tell me why is it the share being held by the president different from the share held by the private?
Well,
private holding of shares leads to efficiency world over.
Our president cannot.
World over it increases efficiency. You will not do dadagiri there. Your trade unions cannot do dadagiri. Your trade unions will come down. Their way they deal with the customers will be put to...
But the management is government. Hello, can someone explain to him?
So this dadagiri,
but the management is government. Nobody is selling LIC in that way. Nobody is giving up management control. If they did, I would oppose it.
Understand that 10%, 12% will always...
I'm not overawing you with facts.
2% coming onto the board will always bring in a new fresh management ideas, cross-fertilization of ideas.
But a private player always can. 36 players.
Sir, all those things are understandable. Please understand that we have divested bank shares. We have divested bank shares, including State Bank. What has happened? State Bank has performed better. State Bank has performed better. So please understand this is what will happen about LIC also. What is so sanctimonious about LIC?
What the BJP government has done.
Sir, that is all because Chidambaram and others. You were keeping quiet. Chidambaram and Manmohan Singh were looting the country. You kept quiet. You kept quiet when Manmohan Singh Manmohan Singh was like Alibaba surrounded with Chinese shores in a cabinet.
PK, you tell Rajiv.
Go and ask him what is it all about.
PK will now explain things to Rajiv. PK to Anirban.
If I could just say to Anirban,
speak louder, please.
If I could say to Anirban Babu, you see, the point is that even in your China, Anirban Babu, even in China, the oil companies in China are listed. They are still owned by the government. They are still primarily owned by the government, but they are listed. So when Sinopec in China gets listed, what happens? The value of Sinopec is unleashed. You begin to understand what is the true value of the company. But it's still government owned, it's still government run, but
government managed.
Yeah, but the market discipline is added to the stew that runs that company. That's all. So this is not something that India is doing uniquely. Even communist China is doing the same.
Sir, I am not an economist, I understand. I am not an economist, sir. I understand I am a common man.
That is evident.
From a common man's viewpoint, what I understand is privatization means taking away the asset, national asset from the people and gifting it to a private player who can at any
don't talk like Rahul Gandhi now, you know.
Run away to a different
Don't talk like Rahul Gandhi.
And crores of rupees. That is exactly...
Nobody is running away. Management is Indian. A person who invests, suppose tomorrow LIC gets a big valuation, you know, whoever invests in LIC is not a fool to pay that valuation. He's going to do due diligence and look at the numbers. Even a person holding a single share. You know, the problem with you people, you and Mamta Banerjee, you know, you don't understand economics.
Can we move on to some other things?
Yeah, can we move on to some other things? I'd say the debt has reduced in the country from 53% to 48%.
So yeah,
right. You know, I just want to look at rural development has been given a focus. Agricultural credit target is 15 lakh crores. Are we not going to talk about that?
Okay,
you raise another
I'll
point.
focus on something else.
Raise another point with
now, you see the importance of manufacturing. Now, there's something slightly controversial in this budget. And the controversial element is...
Arnab.
Yeah.
Arnab, there is a larger
I was saying
picture
that
on agriculture,
the focus on manufacturing, I think it's important to understand.
On economic development, MSME.
The problem is they don't like that. No, I'll tell you another thing, GK.
All these
GK, let me tell you.
Give a larger picture on the economy.
GK, let me tell you. GK, let me tell you. No, GK, let me tell you one thing. The basic issue is, it comes in a word called compliance, honesty, transparency. Let me give you one example. PK. Charitable trusts have been used as laundries for washing dirty income. Right? Now, when charitable trusts, so what happens is, suppose there's a Congress politician. His family member starts a charitable trust. The Congress politician in the early days, 20, 30 years back, used to give a big contract. The contractor gives back the bribe through the formation, through a charitable trust.
There was one prominent case in UP.
I know. And the charitable trust is not taxed.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a non-taxed bribe money. Do you understand, Rajiv Desai? Now, all the non-bribe tax money of charitable trust will disappear because charitable trust will get taxed. So you see, tax evaders cannot run. That's why Rajiv Desai is unhappy, because he knows the maximum number of tax evaders are from the Congress party. They can run, but they cannot hide now. But it is a reality. Life has changed. No, MR Venkatesh, I think you should talk to Rajiv about it. He's upset about these charitable trusts going away. Charitable trusts were being used to launder bribe money in India. Am I wrong, MR? Am I wrong? Tell Rajiv, know the reality.
Yes, Arnab, I can't go into further details. No, I as a practitioner of these laws should not reveal and educate the public more, but Rajiv will definitely know, given his proximity to congressmen. I am sure he is going to write a treatise on this and tell us how the whole thing works and why is it that the congressmen are upset about this amendment. And I think it is on Rajiv to tell us why they are upset about this amendment. In fact, they should welcome it. It is an anti-evasion measure. It has come a day too late, but it has come nevertheless. So we should welcome it. And I don't think Rajiv is going to crib about it. He's going to welcome this.
Talk, Rajiv. Why aren't you speaking? Rajiv is not being able to respond.
Well, I have said in the past that the fundamental issue with this government, whether it's on the economy or any other policies, is both its intent and its competence. Its intent is malified, its competence is
all
none.
That is English.
So why would I debate?
Sir, all that verbose we don't want.
When Modi left,
let us look into the charitable trust amendment. Are you welcoming it or not? No, are you welcoming charitable? No, are you welcoming the charitable trust amendment that budget has brought in? Is it not a good amendment? Yes or no? Is it not hurting the Congress? Yes or no? Are you upset because of the congressman being hurt? Yes or no? Please let us know this. Are you now where does Gujarat
okay, viewers.
When he left to become Prime Minister,
this is not done, sir. Today we are discussing the budget. Let us discuss the budget. Let us not go to Gujarat. Let us not get stuck in.
Anyway, I think, as I said, we should spend the weekend reading the budget. It's not the most exciting reading, but it'll be useful reading. And then we can come back and debate more next week. But I'm glad.
There's also, I think, an important thing that is missed in all of this is the focus on manufacturing in this budget. And, with electronics, we're already beginning to see that electronics exports have been surging for the past 2.5 years.
They have.
At a time when the global electronics and semiconductor cycle has weakened. In April to December last year, the electronics exports from India were up 41.9%. So, while the rest of Asia, Singapore, Korea, Taiwan, all saw their electronics exports collapsing, India's electronics exports are picking up. They're only 4% of total merchandise exports, but they're growing at a very rapid rate. So, incentives provided in the budget this year for that sector are significant, And
we
that's
should,
the
we should look at
long-term
the budget once again in detail and come back and debate. For now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with me on this Saturday edition. I will see you tomorrow at 12 o'clock for a 1-hour Sunday debate. Please join me. Goodbye.